This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
After the dramatic week in federal parliament, Tasmanians today said they were fed up with the revolving door of prime ministers. Business leaders here say the spill has already had a big impact on the state, and ultimately Tasmanians say they just want MPs to get back to work.
An easier time for Malcolm Turnbull on his last trips to our state as Prime Minister. While there may be disunity within the Liberal Party ranks, Tasmanians have united in their views.
The fact that they're just being totally selfish is disgusting, I think.
It's pathetic. They need to do the jobs just like the rest of us do.
We pay them a lot of money to run this country, and they spend all their time bickering, all their time fighting, and quite frankly I'm embarrassed by it.
People obviously went to election with Malcolm Turnbull and people expect him to remain Prime Minister, so the fact that they just changed, I don't think people will be happy.
Leading Tasmanians say the spill has already had a big impact on Tasmania. Business certainty is down and frustration levels remain high.
Business right around Australia is pausing, waiting to see what's going to happen. It's a real frustration because business needs confidence, it needs to understand policies going forward, and right now there's a collective holding of breath to see what happens.
Many say the damage has already been done. Some predicting Scott Morrison's time in the top job could be short-lived. But now the Liberal Party faces a tough road ahead as it tries to win back the trust of voters ahead of the next federal election.
I think it's very worrying for democracy that we continually turn over Prime Ministers simply on the basis of the self-interest of a few members who want to keep their seats.
In 2002, prominent lawyer Greg Barnes lined up as a Denison Liberal candidate but was disendorsed. Today, he said the continuous turnover of Prime Ministers was worrying for democracy.
What it says is that personal ambition and vanity are now the primary drivers in Australian politics.
Our state politicians today dodging questions about what this change in leadership means for Tasmania, also refusing to say who they wanted to become our Prime Minister.
We will expect and we will demand and we will negotiate for the very best deal from any federal government and any leader.
A leader that has a long way to go to win back the trust of a nation. Michelle Wisby, Southern Cross News.
A man accused of punching another man outside a Launceston nightclub has pleaded not guilty. Jared Wayne Judge fronted the Launceston Magistrates Court over one count of causing grievous bodily harm. It's alleged Mr Judge struck a 49-year-old man out the front of Bakers Lane nightclub in July. He was bailed to stand trial in the Launceston Supreme Court on October 15. Police dogs have sniffed out more than $300,000 worth of drugs at Hobart Airport. Police say two men arriving on a flight from Sydney were detected with drugs concealed in their clothing during routine searches. It's alleged they were each carrying more than 120 grams of cocaine and 200 grams of methamphetamine. Two men have been charged with trafficking in controlled drugs, with one also charged with obtaining an airline ticket under a false name. The coroner has issued recommendations for tractor drivers in the wake of an incident at Bridgewater. Alexander Dale Hall died in 2015 when his tractor went off course and crashed into the Jordan River. The coroner found he suffered an unspecified medical episode while slashing grass, losing consciousness and control of the tractor. Authorities say the tractor was only fitted with a lap seatbelt, which wasn't being worn. The coroner recommending three-point shoulder seatbelts be fitted to tractors where possible and worn at all times. Police are continuing to search for the remains of murdered Launceston man Jake Anderson Bretner. A torso found near Targa, believed to be that of Mr Anderson Bretner, is expected to be formally identified next week. He was last seen alive at around 6 p.m. on August 15. A search of the Launceston tip for evidence will resume on Monday. Earlier this week, 26-year-old Jack Sadler appeared in the Launceston Magistrates Court charged with murder, but did not enter a plea, while 25-year-old Gemma Clark has pleaded not guilty to being an accessory after the fact of murder. Police are still urging anyone with new information to contact Crime Stoppers. A Housing Commission unit in Rochelle may need to be bulldozed after it was targeted in a deliberately lit fire overnight. Police say the area is a hotspot for arson, with another blaze damaging a home on the same street earlier this month.
Fire crews were called to this Housing Commission unit in Rochelle shortly after midnight. Authorities say a blaze was sparked underneath the property.
We believe that there's a wheelie bin and some mattresses that were underneath the house, and the fire does seem to have started from there.
It wasn't until later this morning when investigations revealed the scope of the damage.
Initially appeared there was minimal damage, but the structural damage does seem to be more extensive than we first thought.
Neighbours are no stranger to the sight of police, with the area targeted by arsonists 13 times in the last 2 years, with one incident just earlier this month.
Over the last 3 years, we've probably had 150 calls. So it's getting, all our resources seem to be tied up in Campania Street, Tulipwood area, and we can't seem to curb it.
It's been very frustrating. There have been a number of fires over recent months in the area. We have inquired into all of them.
In recent years, 2 properties have been demolished on this street as a result of damage caused by arsonists, and it's likely this unit will be the third. Authorities are still investigating this morning's blaze, with no charges laid so far. Anyone with information is urged to contact police. Judy Augustine, Southern Cross News.
After claiming the 2018 championship less than a week ago, the Hobart Chargers, along with the state's 2 other Seabull clubs, have been told the competition will be scrapped from as early as next year. Our sports reporter Tom Cooper joins us now live. And Tom, it seems this caught everyone off guard today.
Good evening, Joe. It certainly did. We knew Basketball Australia was conducting a review into the Seabull competition, but I don't think many actually thought it would lead to its demise. Now, according to the country's peak basketball body, the league no longer fits with its strategic plan, with it to be removed from the national basketball landscape. Now, as you mentioned, Joe, only last weekend the Hobart Chargers claimed what could be the last Seabull championship in the competition's history. And now the future of the club, along with that of the Launceston Tornadoes and the Northwest Thunder, remains temporarily up in the air. Now, the clubs are confident they will have somewhere to play next year, however, and I'll have more details in sport later on. But for now, it's back to you, Joe.
Thank you very much, Tom Cooper. A new building height limit of 75 metres has been proposed for Hobart after a landmark report into the contentious issue. Architect Lee Woolley says all Tasmanian cities should be considering their scale in the face of development demands.
This graphic shows part of the complex analysis undertaken in one of Tasmania's biggest urban planning reviews.
We all share the landscape, and if one single building dominates, then that questions the scale and the connections that we all share.
The debate over how tall Tasmania should be flared across the state, with proposals such as the more than 200-metre Fragrance Group Tower.
Hobart is the hot spot at the moment. The developers are banging on the doors, but we should make sure the City of Hobart and the people of Hobart have a good say of what our city is going to look like.
Architect Lee Woolley studied key sightlines like the iconic view from the Hobart waterfront and the need to preserve what makes Hobart special. He found the central blue area is the most ideal place for higher buildings up to 65 metres. The 2 blocks skirting the mall holding the possibility for buildings as tall as Rest Point, up to 75 metres.
There could be instances where, notwithstanding other considerations, detailed heritage and townscape provisions, where that could edge up slightly higher.
Council officers have gone through the report, knocking back the higher limits for reasons like heritage or limited redevelopment potential. In the Central Zone 1, they're recommending a cap of 60 metres. The report set to go before Council on Monday.
The report hasn't been accepted by the council yet, so it may be that a small part of the city could get up to 75 if it's nestled against quite tall buildings already.
Launceston is also going through the same questions of building height, with a study recommending an absolute maximum of 30 metres.
All settlement in Tasmania is distinct. Launceston in particular has a very distinct setting, and the scale of buildings within its city centre are quite different from Hobart.
A tall order as Tasmania grapples with growing pains. Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
Cancer survivors, their friends and families have gathered across Australia to celebrate Daffodil Day, a milestone occasion on the Cancer Council calendar. The day has been celebrated in the state for more than 20 years, raising money and offering support to the 9 Tasmanians diagnosed with cancer every day. Today, survivors came together for a cup of tea and a chat, sharing their cancer experiences with the hope of helping others.
It was really, really scary, especially because there were no symptoms, no anything, and no family history.
So last year we provided over 5,300 occasions of support, which is a fantastic effort by our staff, but what a wonderful thing that we can do to help fellow Tasmanians.
All donations from Daffodil Day go back into helping patients on their cancer journeys. Artists have put the finishing touches on their designs ahead of a wearable art show by not-for-profit Tasmanian organisation Interweave. Models and performers will take to the catwalk tomorrow for the 8th annual Remade show, aiming to promote a message of sustainability.
They might not be ready for Fashion Week, but these frocks are ready for a runway of a different kind.
What Remade is a sustainable wearable art show. We treat it as a fashion parade as such. So we have performances as well as a catwalk show.
Woven into the fabric of these designs is a message of sustainability.
Fast fashion is huge for Australia. We're trying to encourage people to also recycle their clothes and create new clothes and pieces of art.
Ralph is one of 50 designers taking part in the show, and it's this creation he's most proud of.
I've made a couple of outfits. One's the pieces behind me, or this is part of the outfit. It's actually a kind of sculptural installation.
Artists have utilised a wide range of materials, from old clothes to plastic plates. But for Ralph, his inspiration came in the form of wooden Venetian blinds
that I had laying around in the back shed, and kind of went, yeah, that'd be useful for something. And it's about sort of looking at what we've got lying around that we can use, that we can repurpose, that we can create interesting things, creative things out of.
You can find any object and make it beautiful and reuse it, because waste is something that we are struggling with.
Remade's main show will be held tomorrow night. Judy Augustine, Southern Cross News.
Salmon giant Tassal has released its full-year results, showing Australia's hunger for salmon is still unable to keep up with supply. Bigger harvest sizes have helped the company increase revenue to $509 million, and it's forecasting more demand from markets in China and North and South America. In its full-year statement, the company warned climate change could see salmon become more susceptible to disease and environmental changes. Continuing on with our look at the day's business and finance news, with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund, the Australian share market has closed barely higher, falling back from a surge on Friday in the wake of Scott Morrison's election as the nation's next Prime Minister. The ASX 200 index rose 2.9 points. A short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 72.8 US cents and 62.91 euro cents.
As we heard earlier, the South East Australian Basketball League is set to be scrapped, leaving Tasmania's 3 clubs temporarily without a competition to play in. But clubs are confident a new league will form as a result, ensuring their survival into the future. What a difference a week can make.
News has come as a bit of a shock to a lot of people. It's all occurred very fast.
Following a recent review into the Siebel, Basketball Australia informed clubs that the competition, which has been around in one form or another since 1981, no longer fits into its long-term plans.
I think the direction of Basketball Australia is more to get out of running leagues and let the states do that.
So change sometimes for people is scary, but for us it's a great opportunity and we're excited about what this means.
Fierce Tasmania's 3 Siebel clubs would also cease to exist were laughed off today, with the Chargers, Tornadoes and Thunder likely to join a new Victorian league from as early as next year.
70% of the teams are made up of Victorian clubs right now anyway, so I think the new pathway or the new direction, everything evolves for a reason.
We've had a direct communication from Ned Coaten, Chair of Basketball Australia. He understands the beauty of basketball in Tasmania at the moment, and he has guaranteed for us that there will be a place for us in 2019.
Clubs now hoping the move leads to the reformation of a national final series following the regular season.
Revamp the national championships where all the teams from different leagues come together and sees who really is the best team outside the NBL.
More details will be released in the coming weeks, but for now it seems the Chargers' championship win over Nunawading last Saturday may have been even more historic than first thought.
Probably adds value to it as being the last championship team in the Seabull competition would something we can take pride in.
For the TSL, and Glenorchy and Launceston will meet for the second time in as many weeks, with the Pies out for redemption following last weekend's narrow loss, as the clubs ready themselves for what's expected to be one of the most hotly contested final series in history. Neck and neck all season, both clubs feel it's their time.
We don't sort of put them on a pedestal. We don't put North Launceston on a pedestal. I think Windy summed it up pretty well when he said that, you know, I don't think any team really fears anybody else in this top five.
We don't promote or be arrogant about it, but we certainly deliver a belief within our group that they can achieve anything, and I believe this finals campaign is wide open.
Following some red-hot form, the Pies had their wings clipped at Windsor Park last Saturday.
And it was a nice reminder just of the level we need to be at. And so after you've won a few in a row, sometimes a loss doesn't necessarily hurt, just to reshape the focus.
Finals is a different beast, and we've got to go into this game with a completely fresh mindset in terms of what we have to achieve to get the result.
Missing one of their best in Reece Mott due to suspension, Mitch Rainbird returns from injury to help fill the void for Glenorchy, while Launceston will be without young gun Jake Hines thanks to the MRP. And despite being fit enough to play, the Blues coach and former Essendon recruit won't be naming himself in the side this final series.
The group's doing really great things at the moment, and for me to come back in and replace a young talented player, I don't think it's the right thing to do.
The loser of the Blunston Arena clash plays the winner of Saturday night's elimination final between Clarence and Lauderdale, with the victor setting up a showdown with flag favourites North Launceston for a spot in the grand final.
Making sure your bad footy isn't too bad, that when you go through a down patch in a game, you hold firm.
Some of the world's best female rugby sevens players have arrived in Hobart for the weekend's Aon Uni Series. 10 sides from across the country, including the University of Tasmania Lions, will do battle over 2 days, with competition kicking off tomorrow morning at the UTAS Sandy Bay campus. Soccer, and the Northern Rangers women's side will be looking to end its season on a high after a near-perfect year on the field. After only losing one match in the past 14 months, the team can secure the Women's Northern Championship title with a victory over Ulverston this weekend.
Definitely we're the strongest passing team. I would back our defence out of all the Championship League, and Rod works on that with us each week. The passing is his main thing, and that's what the other teams don't have.
The clash kicks off at the NTCA ground at 12:30 tomorrow. Richie Port has dumped Team BMC after it failed to secure a major sponsor in time. Port handed down an ultimatum to the team earlier this year to secure a sponsor by May. Now the deadline has passed. Port has confirmed he's moving to Trek Segafredo for next season. The 33-year-old returns to racing in this weekend's Tour of Spain after recovering from his broken collarbone in the Tour de France.
Good evening. Today started out with frost and fog ahead of sunny weather in the east and light showers in the west. Hobart and Ouse both reached the state's top temperature of 17 degrees. It was 15 in Launceston, 14 in Burnie and 13 in Devonport. King Island, St Helens and Friendly Beaches all reached a top of 16, 15 at Smithton, Grove and Strawn. Low Head 13 and Lyowini had a top of just 12. Patchy low clouds sat over the state today, extending into the Bight with patchy low to middle cloud about South Australia, central New South Wales and Queensland, and low cloud in an onshore flow over the New South Wales coast. Tomorrow's chart shows a high sitting in the Tasman Sea, extending a ridge to the north of Tasmania into another high pressure system sitting in the Bight. On the coast, west to northwesterly winds, 10 to 20 knots, but reaching up to 30 knots in the south. And with those winds comes a strong wind warning for southern waters between Tasman Island and Low Rocky Point. Tomorrow in Hobart, mostly sunny with a top of 17, Medina 12, partly cloudy, Oatlands 13, mostly sunny. Launceston, early fog with a top of 15, Devonport partly cloudy, 14, Lyowini 9 degrees with morning frost. Burnie partly cloudy 14, showers for Strawn and Marrawar both 13, St Helens sunny 17, Swansea 18, Orford sunny as well 16 degrees. Moving ahead to Sunday, showers about the west extending statewide in the afternoon and evening, snowfalls lowering to 500 metres in the west and south. Monday, showers mainly about the west, south and east, falling as snow above 300 metres in the southwest of the state. And Tuesday, mainly fine about the northwest with showers elsewhere. Showers for Sydney and Brisbane tomorrow, but a sunny day expected for Perth, Adelaide and Melbourne. And finally, let's take a look at the current temperatures. That's all for Friday's weather. Jo, back to you.
And that's all from the news team for now. We will see you with updates throughout the evening. Have a good one. Good night.